If you ever get to the end of a day or a week and you're asking yourself, what happened? Like you have a feeling that time is just passing you by and you want to be more intentional with the time that you do have, then this video is for you. I'm going to break down 5 really simple tools that I use pretty much every day to make sure that I am being intentional and effective with my time. If you're wondering why to trust me, well, I've been studying time management for well over a decade, and I've been teaching it at companies like Google, L'Oreal, and Squarespace for the last 6 years. And in my program, the Inner Operating System, I help driven professionals who feel really overwhelmed, like they're not making good use of their time. There's just too much on their list. And I help them find the focus and clarity so that they're making meaningful progress on the things that actually work. So in this video, I'm going to teach you some of the same tools that I'm teaching people inside of this program. I used to think that time management was about doing as much as you can in as little time as possible. And I think the reason is because when I started studying this topic, I was really influenced by books like Getting Things Done, which really have this premise that you need to be as efficient and as effective with your time. Now, over the years, my approach to time management has changed a lot. I've really tried to keep things as simple as possible because for me and for many of the people I work with, trying to keep up with some overly complex system to manage all of your tasks and projects and organize your time perfectly, it's really difficult. And so instead, I rely on what I think are very timeless principles and approaches to managing your time that don't require fancy tools or technology or some complicated system that you have to, spend more time maintaining. The first tool is a personal favorite, and it's called the highlight. And it comes from the book Make Time from Jake Knapp and John Zeratsky. And the idea is dead simple. Every day you pick one big thing that you want to protect and prioritize above everything else. Now, the problem that most people have is they start their day off, on the back foot. They're very reactive, and that's natural, right? We have a lot of demands and responsibilities. We got emails to reply to, Slack messages to get caught up with. But if you spend your whole day just kind of being a reaction machine, what often ends up happening is you get to the end of the day and you don't feel like anything substantial has happened. So the highlight is sort of the antidote to that feeling. And it works like this. You pick one big thing. Maybe it's something that you need to get done, or maybe it's something that's not urgent, but you know it would feel really good to make some progress on. Then you block 60 to 90 minutes. That we have found is the sweet spot. It's enough time that you can make meaningful progress on something if you're fully focused on it, but it's not so much time that it's impossible to fit in amongst a busy schedule. And then at the end of the day, you just take a moment to reflect and you ask yourself, hey, did I make time for this highlight? How did it go and how did it make me feel? I've been teaching this tactic as part of the Make Time framework to companies over the last 6 years. And it is truly the single thing that people come back to me weeks, months, if not years later and tell me they're still practicing this because it's helping them feel a sense of fulfillment and satisfaction at the end of the day. The next tool is more of a mindset shift, and it has to do with your energy. This is about the importance of energy management over time management. And the reason for this is pretty simple. You could have all the time in the world, but if you don't have the energy, you're not going to use time well. And I think this is common sense if you think about it. Maybe you had a bad night's sleep because you were up with a newborn, or you had a few too many drinks with friends the night before and you show up to work and your energy is really, really low. It's really difficult in that state to actually make good use of your time. So this is sort of common sense, but it's not always common practice. People tend to forget that their ability to use time well and effectively is really dependent on their energy. So one of the first things you can do to start managing your energy is just to pay attention throughout the days and weeks to your natural energy cycles. Everybody's a little bit different, but you will find that there are times of the day and times of the week when you naturally have the most energy. Once you become aware of that, then you can start to plan and protect your most important work, or the things that you care most about, and put them into those high energy moments. So you can use this tool with the previous tool, the highlight. Try scheduling your highlight at the time of day when you feel you have the most natural energy. It'll make it so much easier to kind of get into the flow and focus on those cognitively demanding tasks. The second thing you can do, and we'll do a video later that breaks down energy management in more detail, is just to take real breaks. Most of us, we just take breaks by, checking Instagram or looking at our phone, but we're not actually giving our brain and body the rest it needs. And so just as it's important to notice when your energy is really high, you also want to start paying attention to when your energy naturally dips. And then when it does, be proactive. Step away from your screens and do something. Go for a walk, step away, have a glass of water, drink some tea, anything that's going to get you away from a screen and allow your brain just to have some downtime before you come back to the next thing on your list. These little breaks really make a huge difference over time. And as you start paying more and more attention to your energy, it's going to be easier and easier to manage your time. So the next tool is really about spending as little time as you can on the things that don't matter that much to you. And you're taking advantage of this classic time management principle called Parkinson's law. Now, what this law states is that work expands to fill the time allotted to it. And you've probably had this experience before, right? When you just had 45 minutes to kind of finish some final edits on a slide deck and get it to your boss, and you got it done. And then another afternoon, you had 3 or 4 hours open to complete one simple task, and that task took the whole 3 or 4 hours. So it's kind of crazy how it works, but we can use this to our advantage by deciding ahead of time what are the things that are low value, but there's still an obligation for me to get done, and then predetermining based on your past experience how long you think it's going to take to do it. So for example, email, right? I get a ton of email, and while it is important, a lot of it can be a time suck. And so what I do is I decide ahead of time what is the appropriate amount of time to spend managing my email. I'll give myself, for example, 45 minutes in the afternoon when my energy is a bit lower. I put that on my calendar, and then when that time comes, I set a visible timer. Usually I just do it on my wristwatch, or sometimes I use my time timer on my desk. And that sort of sets this artificial deadline, and it makes it so that I'm using that time very effectively. If I just give myself an open block of time, I'll just be sitting in my email inbox for hours. But in 45 minutes, when I know I have that constraint, I'm a lot more focused and effective, and it allows me to kind of move through those tasks that don't matter to me as much as other things and make sure I'm not spending too much time on them. So I'm curious, if you're watching this video, I'm sure there's something in your life that you want to be spending more time on. What is it? Drop it in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear what projects or activities you are all trying to make more time for in your life. The next tool is to do one thing at a time. Now, we live in a culture where we're constantly multitasking. I'm guilty of it too, watching TV, but we're, scrolling something on our phone at the same time, or in a meeting and we're kind of bored, so we're, checking email or looking at Slack messages. But the research has been abundantly clear over the last few decades. As humans, we're really bad at multitasking, especially when it comes to doing, two different mental or cognitive tasks at the same time. And so building the skill of what's called monotasking is really important for using your time well. Yes, you're going to be more efficient and effective and productive. That's great. But also, I think there's something deeper happening here, right? Because we live in this world in which our attention is always fragmented and we're kind of going from one thing to the next, it's sort of a radical act to slow down and do one thing at a time. I think what's happening is it allows your attention to really be absorbed by the task at hand. And at first, this kind of feels hard to do because we're so trained to constantly be moving our attention. But over time, as you build this skill, it becomes truly enjoyable. It means that, things that you previously would have thought are boring, like just doing the dishes or, making some edits to a slide deck, they can actually become enjoyable when you allow your attention to really sink deeply into the task. And so I think monotasking has all of these, effectiveness and productivity benefits. But for me, even more important is how I feel at the end of a day when I've really been just doing one thing at a time. So the way that you can do this is quite simple. Be very clear when you sit down, what's the task or project that I'm going to work on? How long am I going to do it? And then once you've reached completion or the time is up, just take a second, stand up, take a few breaths, and then progress to the next task. And that will make your day feel a lot more smooth, and you'll end up feeling a lot more fulfilled and satisfied at the end of the day. The final tool is all about reflection, and it's called the weekly review. Now, the way this works is really simple. You set aside just 10 minutes at the end of the week to ask yourself, what went well this week? What didn't go so well? Were there any lessons that I learned? And what do I want to do differently next week? And there are a couple really big benefits to this practice, and it's something that I've continued to do, for many years, because first, it allows you to actually appreciate and acknowledge the wins that you've had. It's too easy to kind of constantly be thinking about what's next, what has to be done, what's coming down the pipeline, rather than actually looking back and feeling some gratitude and appreciation for what you've done. So honestly, I love doing the weekly review because it just feels really good to have a moment to appreciate what's been, going well in my life. And the second reason is it allows you to course correct. So a lot of the times we get super excited about a new, time management system or tool, or we've read a book and we're going to change our lives. But initial sort of excitement and enthusiasm, it wears off over a couple of weeks, and then we kind of go back to our old ways. With the weekly review, you are able to see week in and week out, like what's going well, what's not going well, and the areas that aren't going well, you just make tiny tweaks. So it's allowed me to stay a lot more consistent with the sort of habits that I want to be building in my life and the tools that I want to be using. And instead of kind of having this all or nothing approach, it just allows you to be a little bit more incremental in how you approach your life. So the weekly review is something that I really recommend to everybody I work with. Just 10 minutes a week is enough to kind of gain some insight and make sure that you're continuing to adjust and improve on your own approach to your work and life as you go on. Now, what I want to leave you with is the idea that we're playing a long game here. So you've just heard all of these tools, and you're probably super excited to try out some, if not all of them. And what I really see happening to a lot of people is they get super excited and they try to do everything all at once, and it works for a little bit of time, but then, life gets in the way and they kind of fall back to square zero. And so with all of these tools, I want you to hold them lightly. It's really important that you think about, what are your intentions for the day? What's your highlight? How can you take some breaks? How can you do just one thing at a time? But I have seen again and again, when people become too rigid, they need to do everything exactly according to their plan, then they become very fragile, because life is unexpected, and obstacles are going to pop up, interruptions are going to occur. And if we're too rigid with our sort of plan for how we're going to manage our time, then we feel very tense and aggravated, and then we kind of give up. And so with all of these, the goal is not that you have to do every single one perfectly every day, but that you're aiming to do at least some of these most of the time. Over the days, weeks, and months that are to come, you will find the rhythm that works for you. These are all timeless tools that will work for you no matter your circumstance. So I just want you to take all of these, but hold them lightly. Try one or two that works for you. And if you have a crazy day or a week in which none of it happens, don't sweat it. You can always begin again. If any of this resonates, if you feel like you're not making the most of your time, if there are projects or activities that you want to be putting more of your energy and attention towards, that's exactly what I help people do in my program, the Inner Operating System. We go deep into how to optimize your focus, how to manage your energy, how to regulate your nervous system, so that you can go from feeling scattered and overwhelmed to more focused and present in your life. If it sounds interesting to you, I'd love to have a conversation. You can just click the link below and book a discovery call with me so we can get to know each other, see what you want to change in your life, and understand if the program is a right fit for you. And lastly, if you found this video useful, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. It's one of the best ways that you can support this channel. Make sure that more people see these videos. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.